So good evening, candidates, ladies and gentlemen, for being here tonight. On behalf of the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, we welcome you to this evening's Lee Summit R7 School Board Candidate Forum. I am Matt Baird, President of the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce, and again, I'm so glad that you're with us tonight. We are pleased and honored to have the Lee Summit R7 School Board candidates with us tonight, as well as each of you. We want to express our appreciation to the Missouri Innovation Campus, beautiful campus here. If you've not had time to visit it, you need to just check it out. It is a very special gem that we have in our community, and I want to thank them for letting us host tonight. I also want to thank the following members who helped sponsor this evening's forum: SIA Realtors, Lee Summit Tribune, Life Goal Strategies Group, Rodney Loesch, Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys, St. Luke's Health System, and Tingle Flooring. So thank you to all of them for sponsoring this evening's event. When you came in this evening, as you noticed when you came in, there were candidate profile booklets. So hopefully you grab one because I am out. But there is a QR code that you may have seen on a couple of tables. You can scan that, and that's the profile booklet. So yes, we're trying to get up with the times, and we've got our QR codes as well. So a little bit of both. The forum is being live streamed tonight on Facebook, on the Chamber's Facebook page, as well as it'll be recorded. It'll be posted on the Chamber's website. Not tonight. It'll be up probably tomorrow sometime. So, and I've told a number of you that already, that those who can't be here, they can watch it on our Facebook page. They can't see it tonight. It is being recorded and it'll be posted. A few housekeeping items. There was water in the back, so if you would like a bottle of water, we've got 2 coolers in the back with water. Go ahead and please grab one. Bathrooms are into the rear and to your right as you exit this space. Please put your phone on vibrate or silent. That would be awesome if you could do that for us. We want to create an environment with little distraction that shows respect to all of the candidates. So we ask that that if you want to record the forum, that you please go to the back of the room and not at the front. I don't want to see cell phones up here recording. That's for the back of the room. So if you want to do that, just like the Chamber's doing it, we are in the back of the room recording. If the moderators see any recordings from the front, you will be asked to put your device down or go to the back of the room. The second warning you will be asked to leave the forum. We also ask that applauding for candidates be held until the end of the forum. We try to, again, remove some of the distractions, the hooping, the hollering, those types of things. We want to be respectful for the candidates and the time. Again, you've asked a number of questions. We got to get the questions in so that you can hear their responses. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the moderators for this evening. We have Rick Smetana, who's the current chair of the Chamber's Legislative Committee, and Rick Vire, chair of the Chamber's Government Relations Committee. Both fine individuals are active volunteers with the Chamber and the Lee Summit community. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rick Vire, who will announce this evening's format.
Good. Thank you, Matt. Welcome and thank you again for being here this evening. Before we begin, I would like to outline tonight's format. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening remarks. We will begin in alphabetical order and finish in reverse order if we have time to allow closing remarks. After each candidate's opening remarks, we will begin the question and answer session. The questions have been generated by members of the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce or members of this audience. There are pens and index cards outside on tables in the hall. If you have a question, please hold and put it on the index card. Please hold it, and Rodney Loesch will collect it. Candidates should limit their answers to 1 minute. Each candidate's opening remarks and answers to the questions will be timed. Once the alarm sounds, please be considerate, honor the time allotment, and finish speaking. We have 2 hours and 6 candidates. We will do our best to ask as many questions as possible. If you have a question this is the audience, if you have a question that was not asked during the forum, please stay around and ask the candidate privately. You're encouraged to do that. If time permits, each candidate will have 1 minute for closing remarks. Finally, we respectfully ask that the candidates focus on answering the questions. Those who choose to make personal attacks will be warned, and a candidate warned 3 times will be dismissed from the forum. So in alphabetical order, we will begin with Dan Blake's opening remarks. After Dan will be Bill Haley, Reuben Mitchell, Stacie Myers, Rodrick Sparks, and Juanice Williams. Dan?
All right, can everybody hear me all right? All right, perfect. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited to present everything I've got going on with this candidacy, this campaign, and I really appreciate just everybody rallying around and supporting really everybody on stage. With that said, a little bit about me. My roots run deep here in Lee Summit. My wife and I have proudly called this place home for 22 years. We're parents ourselves with a 4th grader attending Mason Elementary, so the issues facing our schools hit close to home for us. Professionally, I bring a background in mechanical engineering, project management, and business. For over 2 decades, I've been involved in construction and engineering, overseeing business that's equal to 1/3 of the district's budget, which is approximately $275 million. My expertise lies in the construction of building large buildings, data centers, food plants, commercial construction. My background brings sophistication, organizational structure, culture, and most importantly, character. While this is my first run for the school board, this isn't my first run on a board. I participated in national engineering boards as vice president technical and vice president legislative for 4 years. But that's enough about me. Let's talk about our students. As parents, mentors, and teachers, we help students rise above circumstances by meeting them where they are, and that's equity. As a candidate, I aim to pay that forward for all students. Tonight, we'll delve into critical subjects such as safety, academics, mental health, school choice, teacher advocacy, literacy, and the concept of a destination district. These are all critical for our mission to validate the qualifications of a school board candidate. And we must be providing clear and consistent, stable direction to our one employee, which is the superintendent. In closing, I want to be the kind of leader who brings people together. A father, a businessman who is diplomatic and respectful, and who values this great LSR-7 district. Thank you.
Can y'all hear me? Good evening. My name is Bill Haley. I'd like to share just a few thoughts with you about my history, why I'm here, and what I'd like to accomplish if I'm fortunate enough to receive your vote for school board. My wife and I have been married for 10 years. We have raised 4 adult children. 2 of our children went through the Lee Summit School District all the way from kindergarten through graduation. They graduated from Lee Summit High School. My daughter is being very successful in her field of study. She's halfway through her master's degree, and Lee Summit prepared her very well for that education. My youngest son actually chose the trades, and he went to trade school after he got out of Lee Summit High School. And he also is being very successful in his career. So our children have been well prepared by the Lee Summit School District for their careers after they left the high school. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about myself. I'm a product of the public education system. My entire family is a product of the public education system, and I believe that it's one of the cornerstones of the success in our country is because we have an educated population. Professionally, my background is in business. I've worked for over 30 years in world-class organizations as a continuous improvement manager. I've worked in very large organizations with enormous amounts of complexity, with thousands of employees and millions of moving parts, dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars. That's the world that I've lived in for 30 years. 15 years ago, I started my own business, and I took everything that I learned working for other people and applied it to my business. And so my wife and I have been fortunate enough to have a successful business that we own, and it helps us to serve our community because we're both very big on community service. Prior to the pandemic, we were very active in community service, doing disaster response. We worked after Hurricane Harvey and continuing through the pandemic doing community service in that respect. So thank you Glad you're here.
Reuben Mitchell.
Good evening, everyone. I am Reuben Mitchell. I'm a civil servant, with 19 years of experience at the city, county, and now national level. I work with diverse teams all over the country, and in some cases, internationally. We work on national problems with a lot of data that impact a lot of different people. And I'm being vague because I like to keep my job. So that means I have a lot of experience in bureaucracy and how to navigate a lot of the rules, regulations, treaties in some cases. Obviously, that's not going to happen here, but we got international students. So, but all that's, who cares about that? What I really care about is I actually am a dad of 3 young boys, 8, 6, and 3. And I actually have a 4th one on the way in June. And I'm very much interested in seeing them become leaders and being responsible. And I like to be able to pattern public service to them. They're obviously quite small now, but I think in the future, whatever happens in this race, this will impact them. I can tell them about it. So my platform is I've actually ran last year and jumped out as quick as I could because I had no idea what I was doing. And so I've taken the year to try and educate myself, be involved, go to the meetings, go to volunteer things, and figure out what was going on, build some relationships. And I've seen that one of the biggest things that we could benefit from is unity. We've got the right and the left, and not a lot in the middle that happens. And I would like to vote for a candidate as a parent for someone in the middle.
Stacie Myers.
Good evening. I was motivated to run for the LSR-7 School Board because the teacher's voice on the board is needed and is currently unheard. Supporting our children's educational needs means supporting our students, staff, families, and teachers. Having a member with classroom experience is a benefit to the board as it works to support all of these groups. My extensive experiences in teaching, coaching, and participating in professional organizations qualify me as an advocate for students, families, and teachers alike. I understand the abilities and needs that students bring to the classroom, and I also know how to work with families and educators to help students thrive. I taught in the classroom for 31 years, the past 21 in Lee Summit, opening West in 2004, where I remained until my retirement in May. I've been a leader in the field, in the classroom, in the building, in the district, and in the state. While at West, I served as the head softball coach, started the International Baccalaureate course from scratch, was the social studies lead teacher, and a longstanding member of building leadership team. I also worked with DESE to write EOC assessments, presented at Missouri Council of Social Studies conferences, and presented at professional development days in the building. I come from a family of public school educators and believe that this is how I've made a difference in the world, by being a teacher. My only agenda is supporting the LSR-7 students, teachers, and families. To that end, my priorities as a board member are helping students achieve academic excellence and work to their full potential, making sure an educator's perspective is shared and considered before big policy decisions are made or implemented, protecting public education in our community. Our school district has been the backbone of Lee Summit, and I want to ensure we continue to function as a destination district. I have experienced firsthand how promoting and encouraging academic excellence with consistent support brings out the very best in our schools. Every student deserves to be challenged to be their best and also deserves to be surrounded by caring, qualified educators who are a part of a district that prepares students for success in life. It is with this in mind that I am running for the Board of Education. Thank you.
Rodrick Sparks.
Good evening. My name is Rodrick Sparks, and I currently serve as the board president for the Lee Summit School District. At this time, I would like to thank the Chamber for giving us this opportunity to share our convictions and the things that we have as a vision for the future of our district. I also would like to acknowledge my wife, Lauren, who is present. My daughter is out in the hall doing some homework, and then my son is at work, so if you want to stop by Sonic, please get a cherry limeade. I also have some coworkers that decided to come and support me, and so I appreciate that. And then also I would like to acknowledge all of the current board members and former board members that are in the room for the service. My passion to be able to serve is what I want to continue to do. For the last 3 years, we've been able to make an investment in our teachers and our staff by investing $12 million to be able to increase the pay that they deserve. We also have been able to meet the needs of our students with safety and their well-being, making sure that every kid that comes into our school system, that they know that they belong and they also know that they should be able to thrive through our educational system. Also, I think it's important that we continue to invest in our students by making sure no matter if you're a high achiever or if you are gifted, if you're part of the gifted high achiever, or if you're needing special services, that you're able to get all of your needs met. And then lastly, I believe that it's important that board members continue to look at the budget and be able to analyze the budget and make reallocations where they're needed so that we can also meet the needs of our students and be fiscally responsible. So again, thank you for this evening, thank you for this time, and I would ask that you please support me on April the 2nd.
Juanice Williams.
Thank you to the Chamber and to you all for being here today. My name is Juanice Williams, and I have been a parent. My husband and I have been parents in the Lee Summit School District for 24 years. I've had 4 students that have gone through Lee Summit schools. They all graduated from Lee Summit West. My daughter is a teacher in the school district as well. I've been a social worker for over 20 years. I began my career in child welfare, and then I moved on to do school social work in a neighboring school district. And now I teach at the University of Central Missouri in Warrensburg, as well as in this beautiful building in the evenings once a week. So I'm running for school board because I have a strong belief that this district deserves, that children in this district deserve high-quality education regardless of their family circumstances. We have many families in our district that come with varying needs, and our teachers need to be prepared to help all of them. I have a passion for people, and I believe no matter what struggles may be occurring in their lives, every child and parent deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. School districts can be complex and complicated systems, and as a longtime parent and an educator, I have experienced the system in many ways on both sides and can add valuable insight to the school board. I also have a strong concern about childhood mental health and how our district is choosing to handle that concern with kids. I believe our district needs to address the childhood mental health issues that are occurring and add support to those families that may be struggling with the impacts of those issues. As you can tell, I've never ran for a public office, so I start off a little groggy, but it gets better at the end, I promise. I don't stutter all the way to the end. Children cannot learn if they are unwell.
Thank you for your opening remarks. We will now move into the next phase of the forum with questions beginning in this candidate order. Bill Haley, Reuben Mitchell, Stacie Myers, Rodrick Sparks, Juanice Williams, and Dan Blake. The first question is a gesture response. By a show of hands, have you attended or watched an LSR-7 school board meeting in the last 3 months? In the last 6 months? In the past year? I guess my math would tell me all of you would have been the year, so. All right, the first question, Bill Haley first. What was your first involvement with LSR-7 before deciding to run for the school board?
My first involvement with LSR-7, my wife and I both served as judges at district competitions for DECA, FBLA, and a few other organizations. We've done a lot of volunteer work with the school. So when my children were involved in school, we were very active in volunteering and serving in those capacities.
Reuben?
Trying to think back. Well, going to the school boards meetings, I thought those were fascinating about a year ago or so. And then my eight-year-old goes to Cedar Creek, so been doing some volunteering back then. So, but the initial was I had some friends who grew up here, and they had a child with special needs, and they decided, hey, this is the best place. You need to take your kid here. So that was definitely that got me over here and interested. Just look into the district, and so working through the 504 program, that type of thing. So that would have been two or 3 years ago. Time flies when you have little kids. Anyway.
Thank you. Stacie Myers.
My first involvement with the school district would be in May of 2002 when Stan Elliott hired me into Lee Summit North High School. I was at Lee Summit North until Lee Summit West was being hatched out of the ground, and I got the opportunity to go over there and open a brand new building and start a brand new program, and the competitive part of me just could not say no. So in 2004, I became a Titan and stayed a Titan until I retired. My first experience with a Lee Summit school board meeting would be the year that we won the National Blue Ribbon Award at Lee Summit West, and we were recognized for just the amazing things that our students had accomplished at that point.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
So I will say my first interaction with LSR-7 was at our board meetings as a parent. And so not only was I a parent there to learn about the district and to see how they can meet the needs of my students, my children, but also I participated in the PTA. So I did field days, I did Valentine's Days, I did carnivals, whatever the teachers in the PTA needed, that is what me and my family did to be involved. And then also, it was important for us to be able to participate in fundraisers, for we know that there were lack of areas that schools wanted some support, and so whatever fundraisers presented itself, we were also able to participate in that.
Thank you. Juanice Williams.
Again, I have 4 children, obviously, that attended through the school district. So I was PTA president at Woodland Elementary for 2 years. Through my daughter being a teacher, I actively worked to help her get her classroom set up and taken down and all of those things. I also volunteer at her school sometimes. I volunteered at my children's schools when they were elementary, middle, and high. I've brought my share of magazines as well as baseball cards. I was a booster parent for girls cross country at Lee Summit West. I also have my youngest starter who started at Great Beginnings for speech when she was 4. I have participated as a CSIP member, and all of my children have played a multitude of sports during our time here in these years.
Thank you. Dan Blake.
My involvement in the district goes back almost 15, 16, 17 years. I was one of the mechanical engineers that worked on the Lee Summit West High School. I was involved with designing the ductwork system and bringing innovative solutions to bring outside air in to let everybody breathe healthy air. After that, we got involved with some of the maintenance folks and we did boiler and chiller updates. So more recently, my daughter is in 4th grade, so we're getting involved in PTA. We're going to meetings. We've purchased school supplies for teachers from their Amazon carts. Whatever we can to get them help.
Thank you. Reuben Mitchell, this next question is for you first. In your opinion, what should be the LSR-7 School Board's top 3 priorities and why?
All right, I would say the top is unity. We have a lot of interest in our kids, and that is a unifying factor that we can all get around. We don't have to agree on everything, and we're not going to change each other's minds about big issues overnight. But there's a lot of stuff that we can do in the middle, and those include a focus on the classroom. We could definitely help teachers to get through some of the red tape. I'm sure they have some of that. And also, another issue is our finances. We're going through a massive assessment problem that is affecting our community deeply. I don't know how many people I've talked to lately that have been affected enough where they're deciding they're probably going to have to leave the county. And so, focusing on finances and being efficient is good.
Stacie Myers.
Top 3 priorities. I think number 1 is the retention and recruitment of quality staff. Nationally, we're in a teacher shortage situation, and we're not immune to that. The school board is ground zero for creating the environment in which people want to come to work here. So I see that as a very important priority at the moment. I think the landfill, in terms of a legislative issue out off of 150, is something that is a really high priority item. It might not be a real glamorous priority, but if my kid goes to that elementary school that's 800 feet away from that, that's a big priority for me right now. And this school district, I think, is trying to respond appropriately. I think the third priority probably goes back to what can be done to continue to promote the excellence that our students have, what we're accustomed to. What can we do to continue to provide those opportunities for our kids?
Rodrick Sparks.
I think our priority is very simple. The priority is to meet the needs of all of our students so that they can be successful in life. That is the reason why the Board of Education set priorities every time that we reorg. And our current 3 priorities is, number 1, is to increase the academic growth and achievement of every child, is to maintain a safe environment in which students and staff engage participation along with belonging are prioritized. And then last but not least, to make sure that all of our facilities are world-class. And so that's us making sure that we go through the process. There's audits to make sure that all of our facilities are meeting the needs of all of our students. Ultimately, our priority is we have to keep making sure our students are the focus.
Juanice Williams.
My top 3 priorities would be to increase comprehensive in-school resources to address the national mental health crisis facing children and families, continuing to provide high-quality education to all students regardless of their circumstances within the district, and to decrease educational disparities within the district. Part of that would also be recruiting and retaining high-quality teachers and high-quality staff, and having all buildings staffed appropriately to help meet the needs of all children, even those that can be challenging at times.
Dan Blake.
I'll keep this real simple. I think our first priority has to be on academics. We've got to raise the bar so that our kids are ready for graduation and careers once they progress in life. That's our number 1 goal. Finances is a strong second, and then literacy would be a third. And finances speaks to one of the board goals, providing world-class facilities. This district frequently spends upwards of $50 million a year on capital improvement projects, and that is something that I hope to champion once I'm on the board, if I'm lucky enough to have your vote. My background in engineering and construction would be a good add there to the team. Literacy, that's something that we hope to address more tonight as we talk about a structured approach to literacy, something that's focused on phonics and sounding out words and syllables. We find that a lot of behavioral issues are linked to literacy, where our kids are linked to the bottom third of their literacy scores with their poor behavioral decisions.
Bill Haley.
I think that our 3 primary areas of focus should be, number 1 is a safe environment for our students to go to every day and for our teachers. That if we don't have a safe environment for our children to learn in, they're not going to learn. We need to focus on fundamental skills, and I'm talking about reading and writing and math. We do really good in Lee Summit with a lot of our students. We have a very high graduation rate. We rank very high in the state of Missouri, in the top 4 or 5%. But nationally, Missouri doesn't rank that high. Our math scores, school-wide, based on publicschoolreview.com, are 46% proficiency, and reading is 55% proficiency. We need to get rid of the achievement gap. We're doing a great job with most of our students, but we have students that are struggling, and we need to provide them with the resources that they need to be successful.
Thank you. Stacie Myers will answer the next question first. What is the school board's primary role and responsibility?
The primary role of the school board is to see that starting from the top with their 1 employee, the superintendent, an environment is being created that children thrive in, teachers feel appreciated and want to work in, and parents have the confidence in sending their most treasured family members to our schools daily.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
The main role of the Board of Education is to, number one, we hire and we review the superintendent. The second priority is for us to be able to make sure that we are fiscally responsible with the budget. That is to review the budget. That is to make sure that we fine-comb, review the budget, and then we also make sure allocations are appropriate to where they're meeting the needs of our students. And then last but not least, it is to make sure that we are the governance level of the district. And so therefore, we make sure that everything is running the way that it's running, and that we also evaluate the superintendent yearly. Thank you.
Thank you. Juanice Williams.
The primary job of the school board member is to work as part of a team to create policy for the district, manage and maintain the budget for the district, advocate for all students in the district at the local and state levels, and evaluate the superintendent. We should also actively engage with the community and be transparent in all of our decisions that we make with them.
Thank you. Dan Blake.
Yeah, the primary objective is really to provide stability for Dr. Buck, which is our one employee, so that he has proper direction and clear, concise direction so that he can lead his team. That is really our number one goal. Through that, we're going to be developing policy for academic success. We're going to be supporting our teachers. We're going to be reviewing the finances and the budget. Humbly, I run a pretty significant business, guys. It's upwards of $100 million a year, and I really hope to bring that expertise and that private sector flair to our public system. That would be something that I would really want to champion. And then, like I said, just bringing that stability to the superintendent.
Thank you. Bill Haley.
In my opinion, the single most important thing the board provides is leadership. It's not tasks, it's leadership. If we don't provide the appropriate leadership for the school system, then we are going to have children falling through the cracks, and we're going to have achievement gaps. We're going to have an environment that is less than what it can be. So my background is in leadership, and I believe that leadership is very important, and leadership starts with collaboration and listening. Leaders listen to what people say, and I will tell you, when we announced our candidacy, the first thing we did was start talking to people. Talking to teachers, talking to students, educators, nutritional service workers. We've been talking to everybody to find out what the people say. The school board's main job is to make sure that all students, each and every one of them, have unfettered access to the best education that we can provide them.
Thank you. Reuben Mitchell.
So the board's job is essentially your employees, your representatives, to direct the district. It's massive. And everyone's got an opinion, and they all differ. And this is the conduit to kind of get all those opinions together to make a ginormous team. It is very much about coming together and providing what the support the administration needs for the school. I heard stability. That's an excellent one. In my experience, you need that calm waters for everyone to excel, to be interested in coming to work, to teach our kids, and that is very key.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks should be the first to answer this next question. What is the most significant challenge the school board will face during your upcoming term?
I think our biggest challenge is going to be to make sure that we're prepared for our 2025 bond. We have engaged with the community to be able to prepare for our CSIP that will be happening for the next 4 years, and so that will be approved in coming up. And then also our facilities master's plan. So those are going to be two of the biggest heavy rocks that we have as a district that we're going to have to be focused on as a Board of Education.
Juanice Williams.
One of the biggest challenges that we have coming up is out of Jeff City with the laws and legislations that are currently sitting on our leaders' desks that want to either take money from public education, exclude children that are in the school systems, and not allow parents to be able to come to the school and help with their kids, or to even be able to find out what's going on. So I think the biggest challenge we have right now is to really advocate and push for the legislation that's currently being looked at to not pass. Public education needs to be here for all. As a requirement of public education, we must educate all students, and we don't get to pick and choose which ones we can and can't educate because we don't like someone's belief and whatnot.
Dan Blake.
Academics is key, and without proper finances, our academics suffer. And as it's already been mentioned, we've got a bond that's coming up, and we have to properly examine the way that capital is distributed throughout the district. There's quite a bit of land that's being sold off in the city of Lee Summit right now, and it's currently under review, and it could add an influx of population to our district. We're looking at securing land now so that we've got things set for the future, master planning. We're setting capital aside, or at least planning to see what sort of facilities, resources we would need in the way of schools, infrastructure, et cetera. So that's something that I hope to bring my expertise to the board. And secondly, I'd want to touch on literacy again. I think that this is really an important issue for our students. Bring a structured approach to literacy.
Bill Haley.
I think the biggest, one of the biggest challenges we face is distractions taking us away from what our mission is. Our mission here is the children. That's what we're here for, is to give these children an education and get them ready for being adults. And there's a lot of pressure and distractions from a lot of different things that are, teachers are having to spend a lot of time doing things besides teaching our children. I just think we need to be focused on education, and that needs to be what we spend our time working on, is how to get our kids educated. Thank you.
Reuben Mitchell.
I think the quick answer would be finances. We've got a tax issue coming up on April 2nd. We've got the assessment problems going on. We have everything's getting expensive. The heat and cool this building, astronomical. Those are huge hurdles. But I'm going to bring it back to, I don't think that's the biggest issue, because if we are a community that is unified, working together, understanding, okay, so you've got this problem. Yep, okay, you've got this problem over here. Okay, so we need to figure out what's going on for everyone. That is actually going to be the biggest problem, because if you don't approach it as a team, you're going to get some people very, very upset. And we're all trying to live here, raise our families, and build a legacy through them. So working together is going to be the biggest issue, I think.
Stacie Myers.
In the upcoming 12 months, first of all, under the category of legislative issues coming out of Jefferson City, I referenced the landfill prior, but I still continue to believe that that is an immediate thing that the district has to absolutely stay on top of. Likewise, some of the legislation that's working its way through the House and through the Senate with regards to school finance issues, school choice issues, things of that nature, which could very well play a big role in how we operate and do business. And then the second thing I've already kind of touched on as well is the recruitment and retention of quality educators. We are in a time period where we've got a lot of folks that are reaching the end of their third time, and they're ready to move on and do something else, and we don't want to miss a step while we're trying to replace them. It's just really, really important, and I do think that is something that's a high priority item right now.
Thank you. Juanice Williams will answer the next question first. What is your understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, and do you support the DEI efforts that have been implemented in our R7 schools?
I absolutely support the DEI efforts that have been implemented. I've been in this district for 24 years, and I've seen a lot of changes come about. It's been a slow process, but it's been a very needed process. Diversity, equity, and inclusion for all simply means that we have to see each other's differences. We see each other through our eyes, and we know that we are all different. So that may mean that we all need to communicate in a different way. If we don't have the conversations, and if we never open up and say, I see that you're different, explain to me this, that, or the other, how will we ever move forward? How will our kids ever move forward? They're graduating and moving into a global society, and they have to be ready for the society that they are moving into. So yes, I support the DEI efforts. I think it's imperative that we continue those efforts and we continue to listen to our students and staff.
Thank you. Dan Blake.
Yeah, I think the most important thing that we need to do is come together and just listen. Listen to each other, listen to different perspectives and point of view. The definition of equity for me is just meeting each student where they're at and understanding that everybody comes from different backgrounds, different family situations, home life. Finances play a huge role in these students, and I've seen it. I've been a part of it myself. And honestly, I just want to be in a position where we're all thinking about the best interests of all students forward. We're not prioritizing any one group, race, religion, anything like that over the others. Equity doesn't mean that one person has to step down so that somebody else can step up. It's about providing equal opportunity, not equal outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Haley.
Yeah, I've read our equity policy. I've had it explained to me by several different people, and I got different explanations for it. So I'm not sure exactly what all it means and encompasses. I can tell you that what I understand of it is that everybody gets equal access to our education system, and I 100% support that. I want to make sure that every child in our community has unfettered access to the highest quality education that our school system can provide, and we need to make sure that we have the right environment for that. So that's my position.
Thank you. Reuben Mitchell.
Yeah, so the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, it means different things to different people. You can, depending on who you talk to, they love it. And then you talk to someone the next day and they can't stand it. And they'll give an example of how their child was stuck at a table in the cafeteria because of something that they were excluded from. And say, well, that doesn't sound like our equity policy. So I do support diversity. I've got a diverse family. I've got a couple of family members who are transgendered. I've got some friends who are foreign-born. I've got some neighbors who don't look like me. I mean, the community as a whole is very eclectic, and to exclude anyone is, I don't even understand that. That just doesn't, why we would do that.
Thank you. Stacie Myers.
DEI is a term that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Now, here is what I support. Kids should feel like they belong at school. The kid in the wheelchair should be just as comfortable as the all-state athlete in the classroom. Kids who live in the non-traditional family shouldn't be bullied for it and be scared to go to school because of it. All stakeholders in the district, parents, neighbors, students, teachers, staff, as well as the board, need to work together to make sure that as a community, we can achieve this goal.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
Can you ask the question again, please?
Absolutely. What is your understanding of diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, and do you support the DEI efforts that have been implemented in our LSR-7 schools?
What is my understanding? My understanding is to make sure that every single student that enters our district, that they are appreciated, they're validated, they're accepted, and there's fair treatment. It's making sure that every single one of our students get exactly what they need to thrive, to succeed, and to accomplish their maximum potential. So do I support it? Absolutely. Do we as a district support it? That's why we unanimously approve our policy, ACIB, is to be able to meet the needs of all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question, Dan Blake, you'll answer it first. Can you define social emotional learning, and do you think it is necessary in our schools?
Yeah, social emotional learning is really about teaching kids how to articulate their feelings. And this is a little bit of a controversial subject because this really speaks to burdening teachers, some would say, with something else to do other than the basics of academics. So I understand it can be a hot button, but I also understand that it is important to teach our kids how to communicate. When they feel things, they need to understand who they can talk to and where to go to. So I do support it to an extent, but I don't want to burden teachers with going past the basics of academics.
Okay, social emotional learning, I believe, is a good tool to have in the toolbox. My youngest son was 8 years old when his mother died, and he had issues, and he needed help, and he got help. So I want to make sure that we have the resources available to our students that need that kind of support, and they do have that help. We do partner with other organizations in our community to provide counseling services and therapy services to our children at no cost to the school district, by the way, and I think that's great. To Dan's point, our teachers, we're asking our teachers to do something besides just teach when we get them involved in social emotional learning. So if we're going to be involved in that program very heavily, we need to make sure that we're providing our teachers with the resources they need so they can do it properly.
I cannot define social emotional learning because I've seen where, depending on where you go, you get a different explanation. It's good. Oh, it's bad. It's good. It's bad. And so I haven't really delved deep into it because that's not my, I'll tell you what I am involved with. Is I have a son who's on the spectrum. It's very, very difficult to get him ready for school. And, you know, if social emotional learning, whatever they do, can help him, you know, I like that. But also, I know that he is smart enough to know when he is doing something intentionally. So there's that component where perhaps the teachers who know him really, really well, spend a lot of time with him, well, we're going to do something different to try and get you. I can tell you're not actually having a problem, but you're just trying to take advantage.
Stacie Myers.
Again, I think this is a term that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So here is what I believe in. I believe that kids need to learn how to manage emotions and achieve personal and collective goals. I believe kids need to learn how to feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships with others. And part of that is the relationship that a teacher cultivates with their students. Kids today need to learn to make responsible and caring decisions. Ideally, a parent is heavily involved in this, but some students aren't so lucky. And as a community, we need to step up and help kids learn how to achieve these goals so that they can be successful in life. And it doesn't always look the same for every kid. It doesn't always look the same for every teacher because I'll be real honest with you. We all have our own style just like they do as well, which is also probably why some kids connect better with some teachers and some kids connect better with somebody else. And that's just part of how it works.
Rodrick Sparks.
Social emotional learning is something that we do practice in LSR-7, and it's something that I fully support. There are benefits that come along with this. When we're able to benefit the needs of our students, it is proven through data that it closes and it helps to close the achievement gap. Our students perform better when they know how to deal with their emotions as they are also learning curriculum. Let me say this. We've heard a lot about what our teachers are doing, or even our teachers are overwhelmed, or even the performance of our students. We have the best teachers in LSR-7. I want to make that very clear. We have the best teachers, and they work hard every single day to meet the needs of our students. I also want to say that we have the best students that are high achieving and they're performing like they're supposed to. And where there are gaps, that's what we're doing as a district. We're trying to figure out what are the needs that our students need. Thank you.
Juanice Williams.
Social emotional learning, also known as SEL, is an evidence-based intervention that is data-driven. It's been around for years. It is a tool to use in the toolbox. The data has shown us that in high-quality SEL programs, meaning all parts are being implemented across the district and are being fully funded, that those children graduate with an understanding of empathy, how to treat other humans with dignity and respect. They are able to go out into the world and get employed. They are able to communicate better with their peers. Today's child is a different kind of a child. If you have a child, if you're a parent and you have a kid, you have more than one child in your house, I'm gonna venture to say all of your children probably are different and have different needs, and you gotta switch your hats every time you're with each one of them. Our teachers need to have interventions to be able to help our kids deal with some big real world problems that realistically they shouldn't have to deal with, but they do have to deal with.
Thank you. Next question will be answered by Bill Haley first, and we have the first question from one of our audience members. If you were elected to the LSR-7 School Board and a neighbor was considering sending their students to a local private school instead of LSR-7 and asked your input, what would you say?
That's a great question. I would ask them, first of all, why? Why would you be considering a private school versus the Lee Summit LSR-7 School District? You're already paying taxes in our school district to send your kid to school. Why would you do that? How I responded to that would be based on what their answer was. I believe we deliver a great quality product to our students. I mean, our numbers bear that out. We have a 94% graduation rate, 94 to 97%. I mean, we rank in the top 4 or 5% in the state of Missouri. So I would just want to know why, what was behind that, what was the motive to put them in a private school versus our public school.
Thank you. Reuben Mitchell.
I actually had this happen to me recently, where a neighbor asked me, well, what about Cedar Creek, which is where my kid goes to? And we were able to talk about all the little things that you're not going to find on a website, whatnot, the individual teachers, the assistants, that type of thing. Yeah, you should go here. But that wasn't the question. The question obviously was going to somewhere else, and it's hard for me to imagine. But obviously we, as a representative for them, even if they're not going to go to their district, they're a member of the community, just to find out why they were unhappy. They have friends going over to that school. They were attacked. They don't feel included. I actually have heard that. So it's definitely build that relationship and figure out what's going on and what can we improve.
Thank you. Stacie Myers.
I'll be real honest with you. I am a complete and total supporter of public education. But if my neighbor came and said, hey, I'm thinking about sending my kid to the private school down the street, I would obviously ask the question why. And then I would hope that throughout the course of the dialogue, perhaps I would be able to offer some suggestions of things that they might have available to them in the district that maybe they don't realize. Perhaps it's just a building change. You know, sometimes that's needed. Sometimes that's a good factory reset for a kid. Sometimes it's just a courageous conversation with a teacher, with a coach, with a counselor, with an assistant principal. Sometimes that's what it is. But I would, obviously it's not my business where they end up sending them, but I would try diligently to try to help that person problem solve it with one of the resources that we have available to us, because we have a lot to offer.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
Can you re-ask the question, please?
You bet. If you were ever elected to the LSR-7 School Board and a neighbor was considering sending their student to a local private school instead of an LSR-7 and asked for your input, what would you say to them?
my first question would be, is your mind made up? And if their mind wasn't made up and I had the opportunity to be able to convince them of all of the great things that our district have, I would remind them that we have very highly educated teachers in LSR-7. I would remind them of the different programs that we have to where we are looking at the portrait of a graduate and we're preparing kids no matter if they decide to go to a college or university, if they decide to go into the workforce, or if they decide to go and serve our country. I would let them know that we are the best of the best in this region as a school district. And so I would let them know that I'm available for continued conversations, and then also I would provide other avenues for them to know of the great things that we're doing as a district. If there's problems, then I would obviously ask them to start at their building level and then allow it to take the chain of command up to central office.
Thank you. Juanice Williams.
I would ask them, why, what's your choice? I mean, what's going on with you? Is there something going on? Is there a reason? Depending on what their reasons are. And I know that families choose to live in LSR-7 and send their kids to different schools for a variety of reasons. My kids have played sports with many kids who live in LSR-7 and attend another neighboring school for a variety of reasons. But in the conversation with them, I would remind them of all of the programs that we have here, the programs that we have here at MIC. My daughter is a graduate of the Education Cadet Program, which partners with UCM. There's the Early Education Program. There are also partnerships with other universities that you can finish here and get your first 2 years done, and then you only have to spend 2 years at certain public universities. So I would remind them of what we do offer that may not be available in a private school setting, especially if their kids have special needs and those kinds of things.
Thank you. Dan Blake.
Well, I wouldn't ask them why, because I already know. I was one of those parents. 5 years ago, my wife and I were looking at private schools, and we were trying to decide if that's what the route that we wanted to go for our daughter, recognizing that, enrollment rates can be flat and that things can continuously be improved. But I would look at that neighbor and I would say, hey, first and foremost, I respect your right to do whatever you want with your child. And if private school is the avenue for you, then I fully support that. But as an advocate for public education, I would dig in and I would say, you realize that LSR-7 has some of the best teachers in the entire state, right? And I would want to know what they feel that they may be lacking, because we have a lot of programs in this district. This is an amazing district. And I would make sure that they got the answers that they needed before they made that decision.
Thank you. This next question will be for Reuben Mitchell first. Do you support proposed legislation for open enrollment in the Missouri public school system? And how should the LSR-7 School District prepare if open enrollment legislation is passed?
Okay, so I have not read any of the open enrollment legislation currently going through, but in my personal experience with legislation, laws that come through, having to actually lead a team that had to deal with a national law that was quickly implemented and lots of problems. I've also spent a lot of time with some of our representatives about laws and how 5 of them could be introduced on the same issue, and yet they'll pick the worst one. So I don't know if I can say I'm for open enrollment or not. A child needs can vary, and sometimes LSR-7 may not be what they need, and they need to go somewhere else. And that parent wants them to go there. But I also know that we are a destination and they'll want to come here. So it could go either way.
Stacie Myers.
Open enrollment is really something that, if it passes, there's not going to be a whole lot that the district can, do at that point other than be prepared for it. And I believe that it passed the House last Wednesday and is sitting there in the Senate right now in Jefferson City. There are factors, though, that would influence someone, to want to leave or come here that would be completely out of our control. But I would assume that with our reputation as a destination district, we would have to be really prepared for how many can we accept? What's the protocol going to look like? And that would really involve the board working really closely with Dr. Buck to identify what those protocols are going to be that's going to be the best to serve our students, our staff, and our families. I don't know what the parameters that will be put on that in terms of the numbers and things like that. Different versions kind of say different things.
Rodrick Sparks.
Okay, the first thing I would like to acknowledge is that the Board of Education, we approved a legislative platform this year in our district, and one of our pieces that we're opposing is open enrollment. And so, correct, there is a House Bill 1989 that has moved to the Senate and is currently waiting to be assigned to a committee. But the problem with open enrollment is this. Number one, it leads to students bouncing from one school to another. It creates unstable budgets and learning environments. But then also, there is data that shows that when a student is in a system from pre-K all the way through the entire high school level, then they are going to have better outcomes. Also, open enrollment, it harms schools, districts to be able to budget and to be able to plan for classroom sizes. And then the last thing I would like to highlight is this, is that we have to make sure that we do not support open enrollment, because when one of the pieces is the board gets to approve of opting in or opting out, so please know who you're voting for. Thank you.
Juanice Williams.
As we discussed budget concerns and worrying about what are we going to do with our budget, the finances that we have in our school district, how are we going to support all of the children that we have, you have to seriously look at open enrollment. Currently, the district only can opt out each year, is what the bill says currently. However, there are always amendments and bills can be changed at any time. It's been proven that it does not work in other districts. It has left shortfalls. When we start talking about open enrollment, that's the preview to first start removing money from schools. As we all stand here and we talk about where we stand with open enrollment or vouchers or any of those, we all have been, as candidates, we've all been endorsed by many, many, many different endorsers. I would encourage all of you as voters to go and check our endorsers and see where our endorsers stand with open enrollment or vouchers, and make your decisions based on that.
Dan Blake.
Well, let me tell you that on the topic of endorsements, Dan Blake's values don't necessarily align with every single thing that is posted on the internet in the way of endorsements. So you need to be careful what you read, understand what's going on in this community, because there is a lot of freaking baloney out there. When it comes to open enrollment, I oppose this. And I oppose it for a couple of reasons, mostly because of finances. We need stability in the budget in this district. We are heavily dependent on public tax dollars, and really there would be a lot of hoops to jump through in terms of logistics from transportation and things of that sort. So there's a lot to sort through, but I'm not closed-minded to the issue. And I understand things like moving students from school to school and private schools, they drive competition. So as leaders and board members, we got to keep our eye on that.
Bill Haley.
I do not support open enrollment. I do not support sending any of our tax dollars to parochial schools or private schools. Open enrollment would be a very big disruption for our school district. We plan based on knowing what our student body is going to be next year, and any specific recommendations about open enrollment at this point would be futile, because we don't know what is going to come off the governor's desk, if anything. They've been talking about open enrollment for 40 years. If they end up passing something, we'll figure out what to do with it when it shows up. But as far as it goes, categorically, I'm opposed to it.
Stacie Myers will answer the next question first. And this is the second question from a member of our audience. I understand there are serious safety issues in some of our schools. What is your plan to provide a safe learning environment?
Well, I don't know specifically what issues we're referencing here. I can tell you that I was a teacher pre-Columbine, and I've seen the changes over the years since the Safe Schools Act went into place, if we're talking about that type of safety. Lee Summit has worked really hard to cultivate a positive partnership with the police department. I believe that Lee Summit has also worked really hard to just tighten security on campus, period, when it comes to door locking systems and a really sophisticated camera system and things of this nature. So if that's the type of safety we're talking about, I think that it's a constantly changing topic where you're constantly having to keep up with the new and the better. Reporting things before they happen or reporting things when they happen is really, really important along the way too, with regards to just students and their interactions between each other.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
Safety for our students and staff is one of the priorities of the Board of Education, and it's a priority of mine personally. We should realize that in 2020, you, the taxpayers, you passed a bond for us to be able to enhance security for our district. We invested over $3 million to address safety in our district. Not only that, if you go over to Meadow Lanes Elementary School, you will see that there are newly installed doors, which is to prohibit intruders to being able to access our building, and is supposed to provide a 6-minute delay. I say those things because I want you to know that safety is important. Now, tonight you will probably hear, oh, there's fights that are happening in our school districts. There's people that feel unsafe. Some of that is happening in our district. But let me tell you this, we have policy to address those behavioral issues. But then also we need to make sure that there's practices so that we can address why are those things happening. And so as a district, we are committed to making sure that all of our students are safe and all of our staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Juanice Williams.
The first thing I think we should look at is what is the safety issues that are occurring? If it's kids having fights in schools, well, why are there so many fights in schools? And if teachers don't feel safe at school, well, why don't teachers feel safe at school? We probably need to look at our policies, and if policies need to be revamped, then that's something we need to do. In LSR-7, we have some zero tolerance policies, and zero tolerance policies have been proven over and over and over again to be ineffective and to cause issues with students that usually have disabilities, whether it's a seen disability or an unseen disability or an invisible disability. Also, they tend to not work for students that are students of color. They tend to heavily rely on the student that is the other. So zero tolerance policies are probably something we need to look at, and instead, what's happening when kids get suspended? They just come back to school? There's no conversation, we don't address it, there's no restorative justice. Do we have conflict resolution? Are these things occurring?
Thank you. Dan Blake.
Yeah, when I think about safety, I kind of think of it in 3 categories, especially if a student was to approach me about safety concerns. I think first about the physical safety of our buildings, right? And what the construction of our facilities look like, the specifications that we use for doors, windows, walls, barricades, et cetera. But I gotta tell you, I'm an expert in safety, and I'll go on the record with that. I have been to our districts, several of the schools. We've got great safety in our schools. We've got locked entry vestibules. We've got data-driven solutions in place. We've got cameras, but we can always do better, right? We want to provide teachers with the right data at their fingertips so that they can make snap decisions and judgments in the event that we have something tragic go down. Secondly, I think of safety in terms of like fights in the hallways, as others has mentioned here. That's a no good thing. We've got to make sure that we are addressing bullying and making sure that kids are mentally safe as well.
Thank you. Bill Haley.
A lot of the folks I've been talking to have been talking about this very issue. And as has been pointed out, we do have safe, hard buildings. Our buildings are very secure. I've been around to most of them. We've got our buildings locked down pretty well. The problem isn't the people that are on the outside. The problem is the kids that are on the inside. They're the ones that are doing the fighting. These numbers come right off of our school board's webpage. 125 fights or less is the goal for this year. 38 or less of our staff members being assaulted is the goal. Weapon possession, 7 or less. Inappropriate physical contact, 94 or less, and it just goes on. I'm just going to suggest that the policies we have in place are not presently working and that we need to revisit this issue because we do have people that do not feel safe. They've shared that with me, both students and teachers.
Thank you. Reuben Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm the safety coordinator for my church, and so that is very much on my mind a lot. And also, I have kids. I mean, that are in these environments. I don't know if you saw the shooting about 3.5 hours north of us in Iowa. You know, these things weigh on the teachers and the kids and the parents' minds. But I'm very confident that these buildings are hardened and that we have a good training for that. But I am concerned about these fights. So we just had a school board meeting where the students said there was a lot of fighting going on that they were concerned with. So I'm going to say we have policies that says no fighting. So I'm not sure it's the policy issue. I'm thinking it's a cultural issue, straight down to support our staff who feel emboldened. We're going to tackle this, and I don't have something on my back that I'm going to be targeted for actually enforcing our policy.
Thank you. This next question, Rodrick Sparks, you will answer it first. What is your opinion about private school vouchers and school choice?
I am absolutely against private school vouchers and school choice. Public education is the bedrock of our country. And it's important that we fund public education as much as we can. We are currently underfunded. We're not able to meet all of the needs that we have to meet the needs of our students. We need to be able to have universal early childhood, because we also know if we talk about closing gaps that we have to start while our kids are very young. And so I am excited to the fact that we get to give access to 260 more students. But ultimately, I'm against any bill that would go through legislation that would defund public education. Thank you.
Juanice Williams.
Parents have the right, and I support any parent's right to choose to have their kids educated wherever they want to have their kids educated at. I do not support private school funding or vouchers or any of those. All of that would do, again, would take money away from an already strapped system, and it would give it to another place. If that ever happens, then the Lee Summit School District will be left destitute like a ghost town. And I would like to say that I'm overreacting and whatnot, but I am not. Vouchers systems never work. They don't work for kids. They don't work for public education.
Dan Blake.
Yeah, I oppose these two things, the vouchers and the open enrollment. Just like I'd already mentioned, I'm here to champion public education. And part of championing public education is to make sure that we've got the proper resources in terms of tax dollars for our students. Now, I'll tell you, I don't think that we're underfunded by any stretch. I think Lee Summit is a very well-funded school district. We just need to appropriately prioritize the budget with somebody who can come in and add expertise from a very high level. And it isn't dollars and cents. It's not about being an accountant. It's about understanding how to prioritize programs and put them in the correct order so that students are set up for success when they graduate high school.
Bill Haley.
Yeah, I already answered this question. I'm not in favor of open enrollment. I'm not in favor of public money going to private schools. I am sensitive, however, to the fact that we do have people that want to pull their children out of our school district. I've talked to some of them. And I believe that we need to be listening to those people and find out why they're wanting to leave before we pass judgment. But again, I am opposed to sending any tax money to private schools.
Reuben Mitchell.
My apologies. Could I get the question again? Wording?
What is your opinion about private school vouchers and school choice?
Well, I can see circumstances where those are both good and both bad. Where, say, like a Somali immigrant family over in Raytown they have a problem with their kid, and they have to do something, and they're very, 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 very interested in them succeeding, having just come here. And so they're going to be looking for what they can do, open enrollment, vouchers, that type of thing. But in my experience in bureaucracy, you aren't going to find that well put together, open enrollment or vouchers. So I actually have not seen where those are done well or good or any stretch of the form. So, you know, obviously the idea to help every kid is a noble one, but execution is very poor in Missouri. So,
Stacie Myers.
I am not a supporter of either. I believe that school choice is just that. If a parent chooses to move their student to the local private school, that is certainly their prerogative. But the tax dollars intended to support that local public school remain with the district. I think that being an advocate for vouchers would be absolutely, completely opposed to what the six of us are up here trying to do, is serve on a school board and try to meet the needs of our community in the public forum.
The next question was submitted by a member of our audience. Juanice Williams will answer first. How will you advocate for the dignity and belonging of LGBTQ and non-binary students?
I would advocate for LGBTQIA plus students and non-binary students by reminding everyone that these are our students. We are placed on the board for every student and to address every student's needs, not the students that we like, not just the students that we have commonalities with. We are placed on the board to advocate and make sure that every last one of those almost 18,000 students are safe, they feel like they belong, and they have a place to go to belong.
Thank you. Dan Blake.
Guys, I support all students. I support our LGBTQIA plus students as well. I support trans students. I support everybody. I think that everybody should feel safe. They should feel like they can come to school and get an education. If that is your identity, then we are, as board members, are set here to help you be successful. And that's the end of the story.
Thank you. Bill Haley.
Same here. I don't see any difference between any group, one group of students versus another. I mean, every student should have equal access to everything that we have to offer. I don't understand the need to keep identifying a group of people and asking how we're going to deal with them. They're all the same to me. I mean, they're all kids. I don't see why I keep getting asked how I'm going to treat somebody, because I treat everybody the same. So again, as I said earlier, I think all of the children in our school district should have unfettered access to the best quality education that Lee Summit can provide them.
Thank you. Reuben Mitchell.
yeah, it is an odd question because, you know, as a dad, you try and, with, you know, multiple kids, different personalities, and you try and be even with them all. And then you have extended family who have different lifestyles. And it's just hard to imagine that you would exclude anybody or that you wouldn't advocate for someone, that you would think less of them, that you have to single them out. Everyone wants to be normal. Everyone wants to be included. They all want to have friends. They all want to go along with everyone. So, yeah, I don't know. How I would do it, I would like to talk to them. Hey, you're not feeling good? No one's talking to you? Why are you sitting over here by yourself at lunchtime? I'd like to get to know them.
Thank you. Stacie Myers.
I believe that every student that walks through our doors needs to feel like they belong, that they fit in, and that they have a place. If the student, regardless of their status, doesn't feel like they belong at school. There's a problem, and that problem then needs to be addressed. And a lot of those are pretty specific to the individual. They can be tricky, and that's why we have wonderful, guidance counselors to support along the way, and other adults in the building that can kind of help navigate some of those difficult conversations. But I believe, regardless of whatever a person's status is, they should feel like they belong in that school and that they have a place.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
The question was just recently asked, why are we keep getting asked about these students? I have an answer for you. Because these are the students that feel like they're being discriminated against. These are the students that are getting harassed. These are the students that don't feel like they belong. That's why we keep getting asked. So if we want to truly say that we're about all of our students, then that means we have to not call them a them, but it's the LGBTQIA+ community. And we need to truly meet the needs of all of our students if we say all. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question, Dan Blake, you'll answer it first. How would you address the challenges related to student mental health, and how would you increase community support?
Yeah, I would address student mental health by first working with the teacher. If I knew that my child had an issue, then I would want to work first directly with the teacher so that I could understand what their perspectives were. I'd work with them as a parent so that they could understand what my perspectives were. And if the parent-teacher relationship wasn't enough, then I'd want to elevate that to a counselor or potentially even a professional, which has been mentioned previously. We employ several professionals in the district to handle that.
Bill Haley.
Would you re-ask the question for me, please?
How would you address the challenges related to student mental health, and how would you increase community support?
Great question. My answer would be this. We already do provide support for this community, these people that need those resources. I actually had this discussion with Dr. Buck last week. We partner with organizations in our community to provide mental health services to our students. Quite frankly, I'm very reluctant to put our staff into a mental health providing circumstance unless we hire the appropriate staff for that. My understanding is our mission is to educate our children. If they do have issues that they need treatment or therapy for, I think we need to provide them with an avenue to receive that, but I'm not sure that we need to be responsible for providing it.
Reuben Mitchell.
Tough one to do in 60 seconds. I think we're doing well. We've got a couple contractors who are doing what they can. They're very, very interested in helping these kids. They're trained. They know what's going on. They're very accessible inside the schools. That's why we have two contractors, Rediscovery and something else. But a few months ago, I met with the director, and I talked to him about this, that an interesting conundrum of, if his business grows, that means it's getting worse, that our kids are getting sicker, that they are not well. And what can we do to find the real reason, the underlying thing? Yes, we do support them, but the reality is we don't want them, really. As a parent, I want my kid to be healthy. I don't want him to have these services. So what my plan would be is to find out the underlying reason and address that.
Stacie Myers.
Could you restate the question, please?
How would you address the challenges related to student mental health, and how would you increase community support?
So schools are definitely a microcosm of society, right? And when there are emotionally charged things happening in the community, our kids pick up on that as well. I think the district has has a pretty effective crisis plan in place, and unfortunately, it gets used all too frequently. It's very professional and it's very appropriate, and I think the internal help is there for kids, probably far beyond what the public realizes. We've included the support dogs in schools, and there's just a variety of things that are available to kids daily at school. Sometimes, though, the support that a student needs could be potentially beyond what we're able to house within our walls, and that's where we have our partners with Rediscover.
Rodrick Sparks.
Can we talk about our students? Our students come to school with multiple barriers. We have some students that come to school and they're hungry. We have some students that come to our schools and they're contemplating committing suicide. We have some of our students that come to our school and they are able to see a mother and a father that are abusive to one another, verbally or even physically. So when students come into our care, it is our job to be able to educate them. How can we teach a kid that cannot focus because of the things that is going on in their personal life? So when we say that it's not our responsibility, it is. It's our responsibility to address the whole child. What does the kid need so that they can learn to read, so that they can write, so they can be successful in life?
Juanice Williams.
Challenges that are related to mental health are many. Many of our students who have mental health challenges often have untreated trauma that has not been addressed. Children cannot learn just because we say you have to learn and this is your only job that's here. Teachers are already doing mental health practices in school with their kids, not voluntarily, but because they have to, because your kid is in the school and somebody has to address it. One child having a meltdown or having a mental health challenge can tie up multiple adults for the entire school day. And teachers are part of those multiple adults. We are one of the only school districts in this area that does not already have an embedded social worker program. Yes, it is nice. We are partnering with Rediscover and Burrell Health, and they both do phenomenal work. I send practicum students to both of those places every semester.
Bill Haley will answer the next question first. Do you support hiring additional school resource officers, actual law enforcement officers, so that each LSR-7 school can have its own dedicated officer similar to other districts? Why or why not?
To begin with, safety is one of my cornerstones of my campaign. Obviously, you guys have heard me say that. As far as hiring additional staff, I actually recommended in a previous discussion, not tonight, that we actually have a safety audit of our safety system in our school before we make any decisions. I'm a data-driven guy. I want to know what's going on before I start saying I'm going to do something. So before I commit to hiring school resource officers or using any more of our resources, which we've already been told we don't have enough of, that let's see what's going on. Let's go out and talk to the people and see what the people say. So that's my answer. I would have to investigate it before I would make a suggestion.
Thank you. Reuben Mitchell.
Well, as a parent with kids in the school, I would say, yeah, put 15 there. But obviously, you know, money is tight. And we have to consider that, you know, the money being tight through the community, they will want to see that it's being done well and appropriately. So, you know, I'd need more information, but I would tend to support. It is crazy out there. You have no idea who you're talking to next door. I appreciate when I go to the school board meetings and there's a guy sitting there. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for being here. So I wouldn't mind that with my kid. I mean, he would probably like that. But I'd like to talk to a lot of different people first and figure out what was going on.
Thank you. Stacie Myers.
Obviously, safety has always been a priority. As a person that has probably been through more active shooter training than the average person in the room, I have appreciated for a long time having an SRO on campus and knowing that a person was there that knew the building and knew the logistics. I don't know, honestly, what the data would support with regards to having one in every single elementary school. I honestly, if I was on the board, when I'm on the board, this would need to be a conversation probably between the board and the police department in the city with regards to that, because there would be, that would be a pretty significant investment not only for us, but also for them in terms of personnel and you know, what they have available. So I would tell you that recent events have made it clear that you can never be too prepared. And I think it's always in our favor to be proactive.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
Proactive is what we are. We have someone that's in this room, and his name is Dr. Steve Shelton. Safety is what we focus on. It's what we do. We are proactive, and that's why we have a partnership with our police department. They examine and they do the safety audit that was suggested earlier. This is what we already do as a district. And so it's important that we continue to do that, and we also look at other avenues to make sure that safety happens within our school. Now, specifically to answer the question about SROs, I do not support SROs being in our elementary schools. I do support SROs being in our secondary schools. And so I think it's important that we do have them there so that they can protect our students. But then also, this is about relationships. Just because an SRO is carrying a gun or they're walking in and they're a police officer, it's about being able to build relationships within our schools. Because there is something else that does exist, and that is called school-to-prison pipeline, and that also can cause a problem.
Thank you. Juanice Williams.
I wouldn't support SROs full-time in elementary schools. I know they, DARE officers go into elementary schools a few times a week already. Secondary and high school, my experience is that they've always had SROs, at least during the time my children have been there. So this isn't necessarily anything new. What I think we definitely need to look at when we talk about safety is the adults that are in the school. So currently, without having extra supports and whatnot there, then everybody, meaning the teacher, the counselor, they're responsible for any child who is having a mental health breakdown or a mental health crisis. When that occurs and those adults are all tied up, then they have to be the ones to deal with kids and they have to be the ones that are dealing with kids that are having those breakdowns, versus if you were able to have a school social worker or a mental health provider that was in the school all the time as these things are occurring, they can help deal with them and maybe get them identified before things
Thank you.
occur.
Dan Blake.
I'd like to begin by giving a hat tip to anybody that's in our public service. Our firefighters, our EMS, our SROs, we can't thank you enough for what you do. And I understand the optics of having SROs or police in and around schools, and that's something that as a board member we would have to manage. We would have to pull the data and understand if those folks are actually needed in those positions, but also understanding that, you know, there is a divide in our community, and specifically it's been, you know, seen through law enforcement that we have a lack of respect for folks that are in charge, and we need to bring back an orderly society, and this is a good first step where police officers have the opportunity to engage with kids when they're at a young age, and they can foster those relationships going forward. But safety is our number one priority. We can never be too proactive in this approach as long as we're not, you know, shoving a badge and a gun down people's throats.
Thank you. This next question, Reuben Mitchell, you get to answer it first. Has our school district appropriately met the needs of students with special education requirements? Why or why not?
Well, the district's reputation for that brought my family here. And the Friends had much more intensive needs than what we have. I have been very pleased in my neck of the woods over in Cedar Creek to how they have served my family. So I have not talked to the other, but the kind of the culture that I've seen, I would agree with our friends that, yeah, this is somebody that you should look into. They have a lot of resources and experience. I talked to some people who have been here for years and years and years and seen everything, and then what they tell me, oh no, that's okay. When I talk to my son, they've seen it all, type of thing. So I've been very pleased with it.
Stacie Myers.
I believe that our district is doing a good job of meeting the needs of kids with special education requirements. It appears to me that we have not only met what the state standard would require, but that we've gone above and beyond to really kind of be creative about finding lots of different ways to be inclusive and having that cross education that goes along with the regular education students as well, to where they can partner together to do different activities and different things around campus that makes it feel like it's more inclusive to some of our lower special education students. I taught CWC American Government for a good long while. A year ago today, I was still doing that, and you couldn't tell when you came in my room what kid was identified on the IEP and what wasn't, because we completely team taught that class. And I think that's a statement of positive for our district, that we try to approach things that way.
Rodrick Sparks.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Has our school district appropriately met the needs of students with special needs, special education requirements? Why or why not?
We absolutely are meeting the needs of our students that need special needs services. What I would tell you is we are constantly doing more to meet those needs. We have most definitely added more interventionists. We are going to be adding a 504 coordinator that has a reading specialist, so that they can be able to solely focus on our students that have dyslexia. And so we are constantly doing things as a board and as a district to meet the needs of our students that have IEPs or 504 plans.
Juanice Williams.
Yes, it's been my experience that our district does a fantastic job of meeting the needs of students that have that receive IEPs or have special education requirements. I know that sometimes when students are on the bubble when it comes to the state numbers, it can be tricky and it can be frustrating for parents and teachers alike, but our district does a wonderful job of meeting the needs of our students.
Dan Blake.
From what I'm told, we do a good job of meeting the needs of these students. I just reviewed a contract for the ADA requirements at several of our facilities, where we've got an architectural team going through to do an audit. They're looking at to make sure that the kids with special needs, wheelchairs, accessibility needs are met. So kudos to the board for approving those fundings. I know that we're doing a good job with IEPs and 504s, according to the parents I've talked to in the district. But I've also talked to several parents in the district that have reached out to me with needs regards to literacy, with regards to ADHD, and especially with regards to dyslexia. I think that we could step up our efforts to provide the proper support that these students need.
Bill Haley.
I agree that we need to provide more support for the students that are having trouble reading especially. We need more resources though. Up to 20% of our students have some form of dyslexia. A recent Sunshine request revealed that we expelled about 670 students last year, and every single one of them was in the lower third of literacy. If we solve the reading problem, we solve a lot of these other problems. So I believe we need to do more, and I know that we are doing stuff. I know we have programs, but I believe this is the one area that we can really step up our game and really affect and impact our school district. This can be an impact.
Thank you. Stacie Myers will answer the next question first, and it is a question from one of our audience members. Do you feel school boards should be actively involved in reviewing books of any kind? Why or why not?
So, as a district, we are fortunate. We have in our employment certified librarians that have been trained on how to procure those books for the libraries. And we also have a policy in place that does allow for parents to, ask for a book title to be reviewed. I think that policy is a smart policy, and I think that's the way to go. I don't think anybody wants a board that is micromanaging what is happening out in the buildings. We hire those people to be professional. We have a policy in place that the board has supported that has seemed to work, and I think that is the appropriate way when there is a question about a title.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
Yes, the Board of Education, book appeals ultimately come to the Board of Education to either uphold or reject the recommendation that comes from our book committees. What I will tell you is that we should always trust the professionals in the library. They have a code of ethics that they have to stand by. And then in the event that a patron, you don't have to just be a parent, but if you're within our LSR-7 school district, you can be able to appeal a book. What that looks like is there are then committees that are formed. That book is then read and then reviewed, and then there's a recommendation that ultimately comes to the Board of Education. If the board is upheld, then we have to look at the resources. Since we talk about resources, look at the resources that are committed to doing book reviews. We spent over $30,000 to review over 80 books within this last year. And so when we talk about resources, when we talk about wanting to pour money into other things, that's something we should be mindful about as a community.
Thank you. Juanice Williams.
I agree that we hire the best of the best to do their jobs, and we have to let teachers be the experts. We also have to let the library and media specialists be the experts on the books. Book reviews are expensive, and my understanding is that many times the book reviews that are requested are often the same books over and over and over and over and over again, which becomes very taxing to an already stretched budget.
Thank you. Dan Blake.
Well, I support the current policy that's in place. And if you're a parent out there and you're wondering about the books, this is a super hot topic. You can go to the website. There's a media review committee page. There's 3 options. You can retain without restriction, retain with restriction, or you can move to remove that book. Now, I do understand that we have librarians that are experts in their field, and I respect that. But I also understand that this wouldn't be an issue if we didn't have sexually explicit content in our schools. So I do wonder why we have that in our schools. And I do understand that it's very few books and that we've spent a lot of money and that this is a very divisive issue. So very respectfully, I would ask that we're asking the right questions as a group in our committees through our library, and that we work through this challenging topic as a group. We come together and do what's best for our students, because I don't think that sexually explicit content in our school libraries does anything for our kids' education.
Thank you. Bill Haley.
Would you ask the question, please?
You bet. Do you feel school boards should be actively involved in books of any kind, or banning books of any kind? I'm sorry. Let me read that again. Do you feel school boards should be actively involved in reviewing books of any kind?
I certainly support the review of the material that's in our library. And I personally believe that we need to do a better job of getting the parents involved in some of this stuff, because I'm not sure that I want some stranger deciding what kids are exposed to, because some of these things are moral issues that involve parents. I mean, our society has deemed not all material is appropriate for all age groups. So I do believe that the school board needs to be the gatekeepers to make sure we have appropriate material in our libraries, but I'm not in any way suggesting we ban books or censor books. I just believe we need to have parental involvement. And if we have material that needs to be restricted because of age of our students, then the parents need to have a say-so in that, because they're the ones paying the bills around here, the taxpayers.
Thank you. Reuben Mitchell.
All right. I don't know if you've been to some of the school board meetings, but those have been some wild ones. about this issue. Been interesting, very interesting. So yes, they talked about a lot about the procedures, very, very detailed, laid out in the policies and procedures. But I got a little interesting thing here for you, if I can get it in 30 seconds. Again, I have a child who's on the spectrum, and although he's on a certain grade, he is not that mature at that level. And so I'm concerned, for instance, he saw The Music Man, and then forever, it's a musical, and forever after that, he was The Music Man. He's very, very, all that to say, I would like to say, you know, hey, this guy, he's special, different. Can I maybe not have him read these? I know you prefer that for your kid. And so that perhaps might eliminate the need for the school board to spend $30,000.
Thank you. Candidates, this will be the last question of the evening. Rodrick Sparks, you get to be the first opportunity to answer. What is a concern regarding the school district that has not been raised this evening?
A concern that has not been raised this evening would be, we touched a lot of issues tonight. You know what, this is what I would say is a concern that we have not touched on tonight, and that is celebrating our district. This Board of Education, we have expanded every committee, our CAC, our business roundtable. So when we talk about community voice, we have increased that. We have created a policy as a board so that we have student reps. That means we have 3 high school students from every single one of our schools that they have direct access to the Board of Education. And so when we talk about what are some things that we haven't discussed all the great things we're doing. Yes, we have problems like any other district, but I will tell you that we are still the best district that is in this region, and we will continue to be this district with the support of this community. Thank you.
Juanice Williams.
I would say parent involvement, other than when we talk about problems. We didn't address parents being involved, and while parents are always going to be the first educator of their kids, and they're always going to be the person that their kids are going to go back to, we really need to make sure, and we have lots of schools that have lots of involved parents, but then we have some parents that don't even know how they can get involved. They're not sure. They're not sure where they find the information. So how are we reaching those parents? How are you reaching parents once your kids get to high school and maybe your kid is the kid that doesn't want to do anything? How are we reaching those parents?
Dan Blake.
I got to be honest, guys, my biggest concern is division. It's division in this room, division in this community, because the lack of stability from adults translates right down into our students. And our students have got to have a stable mindset. We've got to be collaborative. We need to be smiling with each other and figuring out a way to come together on these issues. Students don't care about red and blue. They don't care how you vote as a parent. They just want to go to school, hang out with their friends, and go get a good education. So I'm a huge advocate to get everybody together, and let's be diplomatic and resolve some of these tough issues that we're talking about tonight. Don't send out letters in the mail without your name on it. If you want to contact me online, give me your phone number. I like to have a conversation. It's just the type of guy I am. Thank you.
Bill Haley.
I'm going to echo that because I believe that the school board needs to set the tone for leadership in our school district, and our board is divided on a lot of issues. We've had a lot of 4-3 votes in the last year that I've been watching school board meetings, and I believe that if I'm elected to the board, that's going to be one of my primary focuses is collaboration and get everybody behind decisions that we can all support.
Reuben Mitchell.
Come on, guys, you took my stick. Unity. Okay, so I'll go to my second one, which is the classroom. And I've been going to these school board meetings for quite a while now, and I don't hear too much about the classroom. And I don't mean like a micromanaging kind of way, but I'm, how can we improve that? What's going on? Some efficiencies. Is there something, administrative burdens we can take off these teachers? Because quick story. No, I can't do that. Never mind. come talk to me afterwards. So the classroom, as large as our district is, it all happens in one room between one teacher and one student. 18,000 students, 3,000 staff. I haven't heard that.
Stacie Myers.
I'm going to go in the direction of a question that someone sent me last week on social media. And I was asked about how I felt about the separation of church and state and how does it apply to public schools, yes or no, why or why not. I believe that the separation of church and state absolutely applies to public schools for the various reasons that my colleagues have spoken about this evening. We are a nation of many faiths. We serve students of all walks of life. This is part of what makes the United States a truly great place to live. The first Congress felt so strongly about this point that the text of this is not only the First Amendment, but literally the start of the First Amendment, quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Now, I recognize that religion is incredibly important to many of our Lee Summit families. I realize it's a cornerstone for how many people live and their values and their ethics, and I totally respect that. But teaching it is left to the family. It's the family choice, and it's the choice of what church that family decides to participate in. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Now, each of you will have an opportunity to present any closing remarks. Please limit your remarks to 1 minute. We will reverse the order used during the opening remarks, beginning with Juanice Williams.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my vision as a potential school board member. I've always had a passion for children, and I've spent my entire career serving the most vulnerable families and children and helping them to succeed. I believe we need to invest in all children's success by helping teachers and school leaders be better prepared to meet each student's unique needs and meeting each student where they are in their educational journey by providing proper support to every school. Bringing families and schools together to create stronger educational communities should be what is at the focus of all of our agendas. Again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
Again, I would like to thank the Chamber for giving us this opportunity to be able to share with you and then everyone that's present and even viewing online. You know what, I've gotten this question a whole lot. Why would you do this another 3 years? and let me tell you why. When I think about the late nights where I'm not getting home until after midnight, when I think about the times where I haven't eaten anything all day because I've been in side of board docs, when I think about the relationships that I'm building with my colleagues on the board, why would I do this again? And I will tell you why I'm signing up to do this again. When I see those students walk across the stage from all of our schools at the highest point of their life, of their career, and I get to shake their hand and tell them congratulations, I was able to make an impact in that decision for them to say, guess what? LSR-7 gave me a great education. So I ask for your vote on April the 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacie Myers.
The Board of Education needs an educator with classroom experience that can be the voice in support of students, teachers, staff, and families. With over 30 years of service as a classroom instructor, I am more than qualified to be that person. LSR-7 needs someone who will listen and be direct, someone that understands what life is truly like in a current school, and someone that genuinely champions public education. That is what I will bring in my role on the board. I've experienced firsthand how promoting and encouraging academic excellence with consistent support brings out the very best, which is exactly what our students, teachers, and families deserve. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and more importantly, thank you for your vote.
Thank you. Reuben Mitchell.
All right, so I've already told you I've got 19 years of experience in bureaucracy, know what that looks like. I've got a small family, well, maybe a big family, I don't know. And so that's the main focus. I am interested in my legacy and how I can portray a good citizen, a leader, someone who is going to do, because it is not fun when you're late, and they need to see that. And I'd like to make sure I am their hero in that sense. The key things here for my campaign is unity. We need to talk to everyone because we all have opinions and they don't. Sometimes they clash a lot. And the classroom is actually where this happens. This is the lowest level. And our finances are key. You've got friends and family who are struggling right now with these assessments, and that is important to be mindful of.
Thank you. Bill Haley.
Now, I want to leave you with one thought. The words leadership. I'm not asking you to vote for me so I can teach your kids how to read. That would be a very bad vote. I'm asking you to vote for me so I can provide leadership to the board and lead this board into the next phase of success. The difference between good organizations and great organizations is good organizations sit around telling you how good they are. Great organizations get out and make themselves better. Let's talk about how we can make ourselves better. I'm pretty sure the Chiefs are not sitting around looking at the same playbook when they go to play next year. They're trying to make themselves better and their organization better, and that's what I intend to do if you will honor me with your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Blake.
LSR-7 is an amazing district that we can all be proud of. I'm not here to make lofty promises or empty platitudes. I believe in personal accountability, and I'll hold myself accountable as well as others. We need to continue to raise the bar for academic success. We must set high standards for our students and provide them with the tools they need and the support they need so that they can achieve their full potential. Not afraid to roll up my sleeves and go to work for this community. I'm deeply committed to listening to the concerns of parents, students, educators, and finding practical solutions for the challenges we face. Whether it's improving school safety or addressing the budget, I'm here for your needs. And at this point, we've spent the entire evening together, and I appreciate your time. Hopefully my message resonates. And while we can all agree that students are first, Dan Blake's last on the ballot, so I appreciate your vote.
Please join me in thanking each candidate for being here this evening and for participating in tonight's forum. We also appreciate the Missouri Innovation Campus for this wonderful facility and hospitality this evening. Finally, our sincere thanks to this evening's sponsors and partnerships with the Chamber: CEHA Realtors, Lee Summit Tribune, Life Goals Strategies Group, Rodney Loesch, CFP, Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys, St. Luke's Health System, and Tingle Flooring. And to our audience, we appreciate you attending this evening. Your engagement and interest in being a part of this process is important, and worthwhile process is critically important. The Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce has done its part by introducing each school board candidate to our community. Now we ask you to do your part, and on Tuesday, April 2nd, you get an opportunity to vote for 2 of these 6 candidates. Thank you for coming this evening. Have a safe evening.